yes, it is the season of anime. At last. No, seriously, you thought it was spring? Haha, that it certainly isn't. Check the winter. Weather. Yeah, no, winter. But it's definitely the season of anime. The sheer number of sequels coming out this season for everything from older shows that are getting reboots to long-awaited second seasons or spin-offs to new shows with the same amount of hype behind them makes this easily the biggest season of anime in several years. And so, of course, here I am with 10 awesome recommendations for you guys. This list is going to be ranked entirely by my preference, since it is, after all, my top 10, and I'm going to be including basically anything I want to. I set the rules, and the rules are simple. If it comes out during these 3 months, then it qualifies. I don't care if it's a sequel or what. So with all that said and out of the way, let's get to some awards. First off, my Edgiest Anime of the Year award is already being handed out, and it goes to Magical Girl Sight for, well, literally its entire existence. Next up, my So Bad It's Almost Tolerable award goes to Devil's Line, an anime that would have won my Edgiest Anime of the Season award if it weren't for Magical Girl Sight, because it's so edgy that it couldn't use the word vampire and had to sub in the word devil just to get even edgier. The show itself is another in the string of disgustingly bad romance anime that give vampires a bad name. But with the right amount of irony and the right mindset, it can actually make for a decently enjoyable, ironic watch. Incidentally, if you are watching something absolutely terrible, please feel free to pass that on in the comments. I'm always down for some good negativity. Next, on to my top opening of the season award. There are some really good ones this season, and narrowing it down is probably the hardest part. I mean, first off, there was the incredibly catchy Paradigma Box from Caligula. And the second opening from Grand Quest Senki was actually also really damn good. Then, of course, Uberworld did the new My Hero Academia opening, Odd Future, so that's obviously amazing. And speaking of obviously amazing, there's Golden Kamui's Winding Road by Man with a Mission. And just when I thought the openings couldn't possibly get any better, The Legend of the Galactic Heroes gave me Binary Star by Sarano Hiroyuki of all people. Which of course made it very damn difficult to make a decision, but at the end of the day, I'm giving this award to the show and to the opening that I always knew would get it, since the moment that its release date was announced. And that is Batma by Kanaka Aito from Steins Gate Zero. As for my top ending, I highly enjoyed Hype No from Caligula, obviously Update from My Hero Academia is incredibly good. But as hard as I tried to give this award elsewhere, at the end of the day, I really had to give it to Last Game from Steins Gate Zero, because goddamn those feels. Moving right along, my dishonorable mention goes to Servamp Alice in the Garden, a movie that is not coming out near you anytime soon. I don't know what it is lately, but there seems to be this theme of all the shows I like coming out with sequels, but sequel movies. And like, I'm grateful they're getting sequels, but like, the thing with movies is not only do you have to wait for its release, but then you have to wait at least 6 months for it to make its way through Japanese theaters, pause for a break, and then maybe come out on DVD. Ugh. I mean, hell, Heaven's Feel Passage Flower came out back over Thanksgiving in the US, and we still haven't gotten it on DVD yet. Grumble, grumble. Well, now that I'm done being bitter over that, let's get on to the top 10 part of this video. Number 10. Magical Girl Sight. Magical Girl Sight, as I said earlier, is edge-tastic, but it's also fairly enjoyable. It's a lesser model following in the example of shows like Madoka Magica and Magical Girl Racing Project in terms of dark battle royale-esque magical girl anime, but unlike the other two, it makes no pretenses to be anything else. It doesn't do anything to promote cutesy themes, cutesy opening, pink, fluffy anything. This is obviously a very dark show. A show so dark, edgy, and angsty that it breaks the Takumi standard. That said, I'm still genuinely finding it a relatively enjoyable watch. The fact that it doesn't beat around the bush with what it's trying to be or throw in some foreseeable plot twist is rather refreshing, and what can I say, I like dark magical girl anime, and if you like them too, then you might enjoy this. Number 9. Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online. Weird as it might be, I actually went into this new SAO with pretty damn high expectations. Since I'd heard that it had been taken out of the hands of Reki Kawahara and put into the hands of an actually competent writer, and since the thing with SAO was always that it had good premise and good ideas buried in there somewhere, but they drowned into the horrible writing, I figured that this was actually going to be a chance for us to get some of the anime that we'd always wanted to get from SAO as opposed to the garbage fire we got. And yes, it's good, but not quite as good as I was hoping. My main problem is the narrative stakes. Basically, there aren't any. And that was one of the few things that Sword Art Online actually sort of got right. Oh, don't get me wrong, it didn't use them well, but the idea of everyone in the game will die if we don't beat this game, or the idea of there's a serial killer using this game that we have to catch, or the idea of my friends have been kidnapped, those were all narrative stakes that made me want to find out what happened. Here, there's literally nothing at stake, it's just someone playing a virtual game. Like, I don't need another death game, I just something, a little dilemma in her life, anything to make me think that what happens in the game actually matters. That said, the character writing is really strong and enjoyable, and so for now at least, I'm going to keep watching in hopes that that appears. It's a bit slower and more slice of lifey than I personally prefer, but I know that's also a personal preference rather than a judgment of the show's quality. And so if you can enjoy a more laid-back series, one without much of a narrative stake, then yeah, this is absolutely a show for you. If you need at least a little bit something more the way I do, well, I don't know, I'd still say check it out. We might get there. I hope we will. Number 8. Caligula. This show, from the word go, reminded me of another anime, the Blood Wars. Only this one is much better. Both series focus on sort of this mystery aspect, this I don't know what's going on aspect to catch and hold the audience. And both feature a teenage cast. But my biggest problem with Blood Wars is it was more interested in sinking in for the long-run survival story, a survival story that we never incidentally got because we're never getting that another season, than it was in actually solving the mystery that was the intrigue point to begin with. Additionally, I didn't give a damn about any of its characters, and that's kind of a problem. Here we don't have any of those problems. For starters, the mystery seems to be the entire plot of the show, just not one element, and for secondly, the characters are really, really interesting, particularly our lead. Yes, he's a high school protagonist, but unlike most high school protagonists, he actually has a really interesting personality, and one the show takes a good amount of time fleshing out. He's super into psychology, and that's not just some hobby, but influences everything he does. I especially like the fact that it influences the way in which he thinks about the supernatural events around him, following through on his character traits established in episode 1, as opposed to just putting them there as a gimmick. So yeah, check out Caligula. It's surprisingly good. Number 7. Golden Kamuy. Golden Kamuy is an interesting and different show. It highlights the story of an indigenous people and how their way of life has been driven almost to the brink of extinction. It talks about the oppression they face and the way in which their way of life is different from that of the normal Japanese people. It's an unconventional seinen-action series with a fun quest, and I really enjoy it. Our main characters are both pretty likable people, with their quirks and humorous sides, and also are incredibly capable in combat, and their overall mystery they're trying to solve and unravel is super interesting. It concerns a criminal who stole something from the native people, that being gold, then got himself arrested. He tattooed clues about where the stolen gold was onto inmates before they escaped. Now the main characters have to hunt down these inmates to discover the clues and figure out where this treasure is hidden. Despite its serious themes, it definitely knows how and when to be comedic. Overall, I just really like it and totally recommend it. It's something a bit different, but that's okay.
Number 6.
Persona 5 the animation. I want to preface this by saying that I've never actually played any of the Persona games. I have, however, watched all of the Persona 4 anime and some of the Persona 3 movies, so I have a decent familiarity with the series. And goddamn, this is by far my favorite to date. I really am enjoying this anime adaptation. Where I've often found the Persona adaptations to be kind of slow and meandering, this one has kept me hooked so far with its more interesting premise, with its fun cast of characters, and with the amount of intrigue and cruelty visible on display in its world. I like the fact that the Phantom Thieves are dealing with events in the real world, and I really enjoy just the whole general criminal aesthetic, as well as the whole opening episode and its premise of the main character being captured. Overall, Persona 5 is about kids with superpowers fighting monsters, but it's also about kids standing up to society and to an adult world that doesn't seem to protect or value them. It's got some interesting connotations and generally just some really likable characters, and I totally recommend it. You don't have to know anything about the games going in since they're all standalone, so just go for it.
Number 5.
Tokyo Ghoul Ri. After the mess that Rude became, there's been a lot of doubt about whether Ri would be all that good. And as someone who hadn't read the manga, I also had an additional concern. That being whether the fact that they were retconning so much from Rude would mean that someone like me who only watched the anime would be able to follow it. But actually I haven't been having any problems. I'm sure there were some changes in there, but nothing that a 2-minute explanation wasn't able to fix, and so I've been enjoying it. It's got all the characteristic things that make Tokyo Ghoul good. The darkness, the character drama, the plot twists. I find myself really enjoying Kaneki's new personality, while also being excited to find out when he's going to interact with other characters from his past and get his memories back. I also like the dynamics with his new team, even if some of the members aren't that likable in and of themselves. So yeah, if you're wondering if Ri's going to be better than Rude, it absolutely is, so go ahead and watch it, and if you haven't started the series, I definitely suggest doing so. It's very dark, gory, and graphic, so there's that warning, but otherwise, if you're good with that, you should enjoy it.
Number 4.
Oh, would you look who it is? My Hero Academia. Well, I mean, everyone's already watching it, so what is there to say? Except that I'm incredibly hyped for this new season and desperately resisting the urge to read the manga. It's such a good show. It takes all of the old sort of shonen tropes and cliches and the old hero tropes and reworks them in a way that's genuinely new, fresh, and incredibly engaging. And Studio Bones' animation, direction, and music does not hurt either. Every week, I'm incredibly consistently hyped for this, and I'm also really excited that Funimation is simuldubbing it since I preferred the dub. The upcoming arcs look incredibly engaging, and my only problem with the show so far is that first episode of Season 3, which was a filler recap episode. Not only was it that, which was disappointing, but in addition, it also proved to be mislabeled since it's labeled as a recap episode, and so there isn't an episode 1 of season 3, which I know has confused a lot of people. So yeah, there's that. Watch it, skip it, either way, I guess it's a good time. It was just annoying because I was expecting a new episode. Well, at least I can look forward to one next week. Number 3. Bungo Stray Dogs' Dead Apple. Yeah, I know. This shouldn't qualify for this list. It really shouldn't. I mean, well, to be fair, I didn't disqualify movies, but there's still the point that yes, technically this is a winter movie, not a spring one. But here's the thing. It came out in Japan in the winter, but I don't live in Japan. I live in North America, and here it comes out in the spring. Anime movies don't usually get a North American official release, but since this one is, I figured I wanted to put it where it's actually relevant to people who are likely to be watching this video, as well as relevant to myself. And I wanted another excuse to talk about it because this movie is actually amazing. And I wanted to take the chance to do that now because now is only a few days before Bungo Stray Dogs' Dead Apple comes out in theaters. And so, this is your chance to get tickets, folks. As I mentioned when I did my review of it, I got to see it early at Anime Boston, but beyond that, if you want to see it before the DVD release, which is probably in like 6 to 9 months, this is your one opportunity. I know that some people are just going to write it off as a filler movie, and you really shouldn't, because it's got a hell of a lot to it. It gives you some new information on Dostoevsky, and some really strong character development for 3 of our major characters. And all of it is canon. It's getting a manga adaptation and everything, so that the people who follow the manga will also be in the know, because some of this is relevant information, again, especially about Dostoevsky. It's a strong and well-conceived murder mystery with all the badass action and deep emotional moments that you'd expect from Bungo Stray Dogs. And I'm just gonna keep on recommending it every chance I get. Number 2. Steins Gate Zero. Talk about perfection. I have been waiting for this so damn long. I just have one major problem with it. Watching Steins Gate ongoing is not a thing I'm a fan of, like at all. This is very much a binging show, and so if you've got the self-restraint, I totally recommend waiting till it finishes and then coming to this. But if you're like me and can't, well then, I'd absolutely go ahead and pick it up, and if you haven't watched the original Steins Gate already, go the hell and do that. Steins Gate is incredibly well written. It's a dark and interesting show with a lot of intelligence in it, investigating time travel and the various possibilities behind it, as well as the way it affects the psychology of its characters. Sometimes it can be a little bit slow-paced, but that slow pacing is necessary because it builds up the characters so that when things do start to happen, you fully understand their impact and understand the characters that are involved. Steins Gate Zero is less of a direct sequel and more of a spin-off since it takes place within one of the time loops of the original series. A time loop that we know happened but never got really any details about. So Steins Gate Zero simultaneously fills in those gaps while also giving us a new and engaging story. This one focuses heavily on the psychological and on PTSD, and more generally on the ways in which the characters are recovering from the original series, while also focusing on some new and intriguing technologies. All in all, Steins Gate Zero is fabulous, and I am just so excited to see where it goes next. And it would be my anime of the season, and probably my anime of the year if it weren't for... Number 1. The Legend of the Galactic Heroes Dai Nui Teisei. My god, what can I say about this show? So let me start by saying 2 things. First, that I've never actually watched Legend of the Galactic Heroes before, and second, that I'm not really a sci-fi fan. Science fiction just isn't my thing. I've always taken the close intimacy of swords and magic over science and guns any day of the week. It's just a personal preference. But that said, that doesn't stop me from recognizing and enjoying the hell out of some great science fiction anime, as demonstrated by my love of Steins Gate and by the fact that Code Geass and Psycho Pass are securely situated in my top 10 anime. That said, I was still pretty damn sure I was going to enjoy Legend of the Galactic Heroes. It wasn't something I'd seen, but it was something I vaguely knew about, and from what I knew about it, I was pretty sure it was my thing, and watching this finally confirmed that, since Legend of the Galactic Heroes is basically Kingdom in space. Well, since this came first, it's more like Kingdom is the Legend of the Galactic Heroes in Warring States China, but you get the point. It's a grand, sweeping narrative of battle and strategy, of multi-sided perspective switching and intrigue, plots and schemes. In short, it is everything that I'm interested in. I've low-key been trying not to get into it for the last while, since the original OVA is 110 episodes and I'm a busy college student. But it's fitting that I'm going to give up the ghost about it right now, since this is almost exactly a year to the day since I started Kingdom, another series that took up way too much of my time for similar reasons. But the big question that comes up here is, how do you watch this show? And I'm doing something weird with it. I know it's only going to be one 12-episode core, plus some movies I'm going to have to wait forever and a half for. And I don't have that kind of patience, and it's not going to finish out the series anyway, considering the length of both the OVA and the book series. I considered watching the OVA, and I'm probably going to end up doing a good bit of that. Although, it's just so hard to go back to, considering that it has basically no animation, whereas this is the forefront of Production IG's best animation. But there is another option, and that's the one I think I'm going to be taking, at least for now. And that is the books themselves. You see, not only did the books receive an English release, thank God, they also actually, surprisingly, have audiobook releases over on Audible. And as someone who lives for audiobooks, I couldn't be more psyched. So yeah, I've already bought the first book, and I've been reading it, and it's a really interesting read. I'd actually say it makes more of a good companion to the anime than a replacement, because it gives you more in some places and less in others. On one hand, the book has a full 40 minutes worth of audio before you even get to the beginning of the first scene. All of this history of the Empire and setting it up and how we got where we are. And it's fascinating. And yeah, I'm sure they touch on some of that. I mean, they've already touched on some of it in the anime, and I'm sure they'll touch on more, but it'll never be in the sort of historical detail that you get when it's all just laid out for you in the book. It makes an interesting compendium to what you see in the anime, kind of like the Silmarillion does to the Lord of the Rings. And so, in that sense, I really enjoyed it. However, the book is a much drier style than the anime. The anime brings a lot more emotion to the characters, and so I feel a lot more for them having watched the anime first. And for that reason, I don't recommend just reading the books. I recommend kind of the combination, and you could do it with either Dainui Teisei or with the original OVA, because for all the poor production values, it still has a lot of the same emotional heart, and it's totally worth watching. And like I said, I'm probably going to watch the OVA as well. I'm just trying to hold off because I want to see Dainui Teisei as it comes out and get surprised by it. The question is, will I be able to hold off reading those parts until they come out? Well, who knows. But anyway, that's enough. I've talked about this for like 3 times the length that I've talked about any of the other shows, but, well, I'm obsessed, what can I tell you? It is definitely the best thing I've seen all year so far. Definitely the best thing I've seen all season. Definitely going to be my pick for Anime of the Year. I can tell you that already. And yeah, just go watch it. If any of what I've said intrigues you at all, it's totally worth the watch. And if you need something else to watch while you're waiting for whatever you're watching to come out next week, I'd suggest going over to my channel and checking out some of my other videos. Interested in what I thought of other seasons of anime? Check out my Fall 2017 awards and top 10 list. And interested in some more My Hero Academia content? Check out my video on disability and My Hero Academia. Links to both of them down in the description. This is Coriander Stone, and I thank you for watching.